sul mare, mamma mia, mamma di dare. Figli miei, cutte dare, mamma mia, pensaci tu. Se tu togli la pescaiola, e tu vai, e tu vieni, sempre lo pesce, ma lo tiene. Se ci picchi la fantasia, mi pisciuli la figlia mia. La, pesce fritta, baccalà. Uè, compagno, con la malega giaccata. Oh mamma, pesce fritta, baccalà. Mi voglio una yacht che mi voglio maritare.
Dawn breaks on the fishing waters of Lampedusa, and with it, a distant outline. It's a small boat, packed with people. The Italian border police have seen the boat and are on their way. On board, there are 12 migrants, young men who wave and offer victory salutes. They've come from Tunisia. The police follow their boat and they send over a couple of officers in a rigid inflatable to guide the migrants towards the port.
And this is why Lampedusa is so important in the story of migration. Those people have travelled in that boat from Tunisia about 80 miles away. And when they land on this island, they'll be in the European Union.
The migrants arrive in harbour. They're kept on board for a while, details are taken, but eventually they step off.
"7,000 migrants and refugees arrived by sea within just 2 days this week. That's more than the island's local population."
If we want to understand the full story behind the invasion of Lampedusa, we have to start at the beginning. Lampedusa is just 20 kilometers squared and sits in the Mediterranean, off the coast of Tunisia, some 166 kilometers southwest of the island of Malta. Lampedusa has a long history of illegal immigration due to its strategic location in the Mediterranean Sea, making it a common destination for migrants and refugees seeking entry into Europe. In the 1970s through the 1990s, Lampedusa saw a significant increase in illegal immigration. People from North African countries, especially Tunisia, were drawn to the island for various reasons. Pushed by economic hardships, political instability, and the hope for better opportunities. Individuals and families embarked on perilous journeys across the Mediterranean. Lampedusa, due to its proximity to North Africa, became a destination for those seeking refuge and a chance for a more promising future. Recognizing the growing challenge, Italian authorities introduced policies and established detention centers on the island to manage the escalating number of arrivals. This period marked the early stages of Lampedusa's prominent role in the global conversation about immigration, border control, and humanitarian challenges. The 2000s brought multiple humanitarian crises to Lampedusa's shores. Waves of asylum seekers and migrants from conflict zones across the globe, such as Afghanistan, Iraq, and Libya, found themselves on a perilous journey to seek refuge and safety in Europe. In the face of mounting tragedies, high-profile shipwrecks, and countless lives lost at sea, international attention turned toward the Mediterranean migration crisis. Recognizing the urgency of the situation, the European Union took decisive steps to address the crisis. Member states collaborated on strategies to manage the migration flows, improve humanitarian conditions, and provide safer alternatives for those seeking refuge. If we were to pinpoint a single catalyst for the current situation on Lampedusa, it would undoubtedly be the Arab Spring of 2010. The Arab Spring, characterized by a series of pro-democracy uprisings, ushered in a profound shift in the political landscape of the region. Lampedusa, positioned in close proximity to North Africa, found itself once again thrust into the heart of this migration crisis. In the spring of 2011, over 25,000 illegal migrants, primarily young Tunisian men, arrived in Lampedusa on small, often unseaworthy boats. The migrants began to clash with the local police and residents on Lampedusa, leading Italy to announce plans to transfer and repatriate them within 48 hours. Italy and Tunisia eventually struck a deal to curb the flow of Tunisian migrants to Italian shores. Italy would offer short-term residency papers to 20,000 illegal migrants, but they would deport all new arrivals upon entry. Now that we understand the complex history behind illegal immigration to the island of Lampedusa, it's time that we take a look at the present-day issues.
Un'isola di 20 km quadrati ha deciso che non può più essere il punto su cui un fenomeno di questo tipo può essere scaricato e la cui popolazione deve subire un impatto sulla propria vita e sulle dinamiche del proprio territorio che ormai dura da 30 anni.
In September of 2023, Lampedusa found itself plunged into chaos as a vast influx of illegal migrants arrived on its shores. For this small island, already steeped in history and tradition, the sudden surge tested the very fabric of its community. As news of the arrival spread, humanitarian organizations like the Red Cross and left-wing media swiftly turned their focus to the living conditions of the migrants, shedding light on their plight. But amidst the global attention, it seemed the world forgot about the island's residents, many of whom had called Lampedusa home for multiple generations. Now, outnumbered by African migrants who don't even speak the same language or share a cultural identity with the Italians on the island, many felt unsafe and worried about what this invasion would mean for them and their families. During the chaos, the island's residents found themselves grappling with new realities and unprecedented disruptions to their lives.
Centro, non vogliamo più un carcere a cielo aperto, non lo vogliamo perché ora è inverno e non possono vivere qua 10.000, 5.000, 4.000 clandestini, poi no con noi perché siamo razzisti, perché non c'è proprio la possibilità. Quando c'è brutto tempo che non arriva la nave e non abbiamo i viveri nemmeno per noi, come fanno questi qua a vivere? Ah, loro glieli porta la Croce Rossa e a noi che ce li porta?
E a noi che ce li porta? Noi siamo abbandonati.
Ma lei ci piacerebbe a casa sua se vivesse con 20.000 clandestini? Non lo so.
Ma lei li ha visti tutta questa povera gente in giro? Tutta sta povera gente in giro che chiede da mangiare? No, lei non l'ha notato? I giornalisti questo non lo notano.
Non lo notano.
Ce ne sono stati 9.000 in questi giorni sull'isola, ma erano tutti in giro che chiedevano da mangiare e da bere. Non ce la facciamo ad aiutarli. E allora questa non è accoglienza, lo Stato non sta facendo accoglienza. Noi sì stiamo facendo accoglienza, ma lo Stato no. Lo Stato li sta uccidendo.
Ma una manifestazione pacifica, cioè dare un segnale al governo italiano e all'Europa, all'Unione Europea, perché questa non è accoglienza, questa è un traffico di carne umana. Lampedusa è stanca, i lampedusani sono stanchi, psicologicamente siamo distrutti. Non faremo costruire nessun centro di accoglienza, non faremo costruire nessun tendopoli, perché Lampedusa non diventerà Alcatraz. Noi vogliamo vivere serenamente di agricoltura, pesca e turismo.
Abandoned by the Italian government, the narrative-driven media, and the humanitarian organizations who only cared about the well-being of the illegal migrants, the locals decided to take matters into their own hands. Dozens got together to stage a rebellion on September 16th. Against an EU plan to build a new tent camp on Lampedusa to host the influx of migrants. Locals protested outside the town hall, calling on their governments to put an end to the crisis. Others stood in the roadway or used vehicles to block the road in an effort to restrict the Red Cross trucks from reaching the migrants. One thing was clear to those living on the island of Lampedusa. If they wanted solutions, they would have to find them within themselves. They could no longer rely on those leaders who had failed them time after time.
Prime Minister Meloni and I are here today to offer a coordinated response by the Italian and European authorities. And I want to be very clear. We have an obligation as part of the international community. We have fulfilled it in the past and we will do so today and in the future. But we will decide who comes to the European Union and under what circumstances, and not the smugglers and traffickers.
In order to understand the tangled narrative behind the invasion of Lampedusa and the subsequent inaction of those in charge, we must navigate a complex political web that spans across borders and institutions. Giorgia Meloni, the current Prime Minister of Italy, was elected in October of 2022. In an election that many called a resounding push to the right, Meloni's party, Fratelli d'Italia, took power with 26% of the vote. The media was quick to label her as a fascist and far-right due to her Christian conservative values and her anti-illegal immigration stance for Italy. Others feared that she was a nationalist or a populist. But the Italian people had revived hope in a new prime minister that would look out for Italians after years of unchecked migration through loose EU policies.
Allora la soluzione non è prendere gli africani e spostarli in Europa. La soluzione è liberare l'Africa da certi europei che la sfruttano e consentire a queste persone di vivere di quello che hanno.
After almost 1 year as prime minister, something caused a change in Meloni, both in her actions and in her rhetoric. She was a firebrand politician who gained power by promising her constituents to unapologetically curb illegal immigration. However, if we look at the data, nearly 126,000 migrants have been reported so far this year, almost double the figure by the same date in 2022. So not only did she fail to stop the illegal migrants as promised, but she exacerbated the situation within Italy. She has failed those who voted for her within Italy, and specifically those residents of Lampedusa, who are currently dealing with the fallout of her broken promises from the past year.
Io continuo a dire che di fronte ai flussi che l'Italia sta affrontando, che l'Europa affronta, noi non risolveremo mai il problema parlando di come redistribuire i migranti all'interno dei confini europei. L'unico modo per affrontare seriamente il problema e per non far sì che la soluzione per una nazione voglia dire creare un problema a un'altra nazione è lavorare sulla dimensione esterna e fermare le partenze illegali degli immigrati. Questo è quello che ci chiedono i cittadini europei, ma voglio dire che è anche quello che ci chiedono gli immigrati regolari, tanti immigrati regolari che vivono in Europa, e quello che ci chiedono i rifugiati, chi ha davvero diritto a essere rifugiato, perché non sempre ci siamo potuti occupare di tutti, anche per il problema che avevamo con l'immigrazione illegale.
We're tired of politicians coming here, finding everything clean and orderly, and leaving. They make 1,000 promises, and it starts over again.
It was clear to the residents of Lampedusa that they could not rely on their leftist mayor, Filippo Mannino, who was in denial that the invasion was happening. Overton journalists reached out to him for comment on the situation, but he declined a response.
The island has been living with this phenomenon for 30 years now. But to outsiders, there is a perception that there's complete chaos here. Islands in collapse, islands under attack. This is not the case.
Isola al collasso, isola presa d'assalto. Non è così. Tutti dicono di voler cambiare il regolamento di Dublino.
I'm not the one who can decide a solution because I'm just the mayor of a small island. But we have to choose whether to treat people all the same or not. Whether they are Ukrainians fleeing war or Africans fleeing war and persecution. Do we treat them all the same, or do we treat them according to the color of their skin?
O trattare le persone in maniera differente sulla base del colore della pelle.
The residents of Lampedusa face a unique challenge. They lack autonomy over their own region. Despite being a part of Italy, their island situation is complex. Lampedusa, like other regions, must adhere to Italy's rules and regulations, even as it grapples with its own distinct issues, being on the front line for illegal migration. Italy, as a member of the European Union, operates within a restrictive framework. It's essentially a state within a state, following EU policies and agreements. The European Union itself is heavily influenced on policy by vast global organizations like the World Economic Forum. These NGOs do not see illegal migration as a problem. In fact, they promote it. The World Economic Forum has made it clear that they intend to promote the free flow of migrants from the developing world to the developed world in order to fulfill needed skills in the workforce. Open borders are essential to the very tenets of the World Economic Forum, and Klaus Schwab is not concerned about the individuals harmed in this process of illegal globalization. Ursula von der Leyen is the current president of the European Commission. Since she assumed office in 2019, illegal migration flows have have continued to rise year over year. In 2022, the number of attempts by migrants to enter the European Union without authorization reached around 330,000, the highest number recorded since 2016. Ursula has a storied history with the World Economic Forum. She was a member of their board of trustees from 2016 to 2019, and she is currently the co-chair of the World Economic Forum on the Middle East and North Africa, coinciding with the regions where the vast influx of illegal migrants are coming from in the EU.
Migration has always been a fact for Europe, and it always will be.
Lampedusa was just one story, one location, one group of people that are being affected by this open border phenomenon, a symptom of a much larger malady plaguing Europe and other parts of the world. If we wanted to cover every location that is currently experiencing similar issues, it would take us years to tell each story individually. Throughout this tale, we have tried to convey the vastness of the illegal immigration problem within Europe. It should also be clear by now that those elected leaders who, we the people, put our trust into to fix these issues, do not have our best interest at heart. At best, they are a part of the problem through their own ignorance and arrogance. However, at worst, and probably the more likely scenario, they are willfully working to destroy communities like Lampedusa through mass illegal migration. The forgotten people of Lampedusa do not get to turn off this documentary and go back to normal life. For them, this reality is permanent, and the situation will most likely get worse in the near future if our elected leaders do not act. Thanks for watching. If you like our uncensored and independent news coverage, please consider making a donation on our website to help fund future content like this. You can follow us on X at Overton Live and on Telegram at Overton News. Stay up to date with breaking news on our website, which is overtonnews.com. Stay informed, stay curious, and stay tuned for more enlightening perspectives. This is Overton, over and out.